This is Scott Patterson, Agent Peter Strom from the Saw franchise, and you're listening to Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. And oh, yes, there will be blood.
I want to play a game. In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Back here, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank everyone who's been listening, all of our fans and supporters. We really appreciate it. Just want to shout out our social medias real quick. We're on the big three, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for Don't Go Out There. Or ask any of us. We can hook you up. And one other favor I'd really like to ask everybody is rate us 5 stars on iTunes and subscribe. That's been what's helped us the most to grow. But tonight we got another bonus episode for you guys. We just reviewed 2004 Saw. So we were all talking about, hey, let's rank this franchise. You know, we've ranked Friday the 13th and Halloween. So we decided we'd go ahead and rank the Saw franchise as well. And I'm going to kick us off. Coming in at number 8 for me is the last installment in the franchise, Jigsaw. Now, I don't hate this movie, but I definitely don't love this movie. I actually tweeted out a video on our Twitter account today. A YouTuber, his name is Horror History. He broke down, the story of Logan, basically. And if I need to watch a 20-minute video to completely understand why the hell he's in this franchise or why this movie was made, I just don't believe it. I wrote down this movie is completely useless to me. I think the Logan angle is super hard to believe. I wrote it's not god awful, but I'm not a huge fan at all. I think the traps are kind of basic. I really feel like that bucket head trap was just a ripoff of Saw 5 with the, when they had to run for the keys and they got their head cut off if they didn't make it. I thought it was just a ripoff of that kill. Jigsaw is just not my favorite. I don't hate it, but after, a 7-year hiatus from the franchise and Jigsaw is what we got back, I was a little let down with it. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, speaking of the reason that this franchise took a 7-year hiatus, my number 8 film is Saw 3D, the 2010 7th film in the series. I just thought this movie was kind of unnecessary. I don't know if I needed another tightly wrapped bow after the one before this. I'm not a fan of a lot of the traps in this movie, and we talked about it on the last episode that we did, reviewing the first Saw. This movie is too lit. And I don't mean like, yo, it's lit. I mean, yo, it's not grungy enough. It's not dingy enough. It's really light, and I don't have that same Saw feel that I get from the other movies. And the traps are I know I said this already, but the traps are kind of shit. There's maybe one cool trap in here. I do like that you get some cameos from former trap members, like, coming back at the, to kind of wrap it up in a bow. But I'm not a big fan. I know everyone loves this twist, but I'm not a huge fan of the Dr. Gordon twist on this.
Yeah.
Partly because it took so goddamn long to get him back in this franchise, and he has one foot, and they explain it away, and I'm just not a big fan of the direction. It is a cool moment if you're watching them all in succession, and you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming. But outside of that, it's kind of like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Kind of like for the reason that you don't like Jigsaw, it's the same reason that I don't like the way they wrap this up. So for that reason, and I actually kind of hate everybody in the traps, and I'm pulling for them to not make it in this movie, and that's a big pet peeve of mine. So that's why it's last.
All right. So, Mike, I think that we're definitely on the same page with a lot of that. My worst film. Look, I love the Saw franchise. I said that when we reviewed Saw 1. This is one of my favorite franchises. And if I had to pick one movie that's a dud, because I truly feel there's only one movie that's a dud, it's Saw 7 or Saw 3D. It's not all bad. I mean, I'll start with the positives. So Chester Bennington's in it, and I'm a huge fan of Chester Bennington.
Yep.
He's someone I hold in very high regard. So just him being in it was a cool thing for me. It piqued my interest at least. The trap that he was a part of was crazy. Like, it was crazy brutal. 4 people
Ugh,
involved.
gross.
His back getting ripped off, and then he didn't make it anyway, so everyone died. Like, that was a brutal ass trap. So I appreciate the brutality of that and the creativeness of that. The twist, I'm on the opposite side of the fence of you as far as Dr. Gordon goes. The twist that he's the accomplice or the masterminds behind some of this I thought was brilliantly done. I get what you're saying about the time it took us 5 films to get behind it, but the fact that
Right.
the first guy who, one of the first 2 people that was in a jigsaw trap comes back, that's an all-time swerve for me. The fact that he was absent for 5 movies and then returns with a boom, I hate that it was wasted on such a dud of a film. Now, the negatives of the film, pretty much the rest of it. The initial trap was stupid to me. Jigsaw never did anything out in the open. Like, if the rest of the franchise are in these secluded locations where they have to find the trap.
Right. That was.
And here we are in the public. We're just going to put everybody in a clear box for everyone to see them get. Like, I get it. It's obviously it's not John because John's been dead for a while. But if this is a copycat or someone who's carrying on his legacy, he wouldn't have done it that way. And that was a big pet peeve of mine. I hated Bobby as a character. He was shit. While I was glad that he got what was coming to him, I hated his storyline. This is just a turd of a film, and you could really tell that they were tapped out as far as ideas and creativity goes. And I mean, that's what happens when you do a film per year for 7 years. It's understandable, but just it sucked.
So bear with me a little bit because I talked about this a little bit in the Saw episode, but I hadn't seen past the third one in 10 plus years. So I sat down this past week and watched all of them together. So some of them, I have to rely on my notes a little bit because some of them, kind of run together. I didn't like Saw 3D. That's my last one as well. Just like Dustin and Mike. I didn't say I didn't like it because like with the Friday franchise or the Nightmare franchise or the Halloween franchise even, I can really pick a movie that I think sucks. And but I can't do that with the Saw franchise to me. And I really don't feel like Saw 3D sucks. I just feel like I feel like it's supposed to be a final chapter, right? And wasn't as good as the rest of them. And at the time, I guess it's comparable to me like Freddy's Dead and Jason Goes to Hell as far as the point goes is like it's supposed to wrap up the franchise. But honestly, at that time, before Jigsaw came out, it was the least. I don't want to say the least good, but it was I was like a very disappointing end to the franchise. I guess is what I'm saying. I didn't really. One of the big things that stood out to me about this movie is I felt like it had. Like the blood was off color and Mike spoke to it not being as dark, but it almost felt like the blood was pink. I thought it was my TV, but
it wasn't
right. But then I went and kind of did a little bit of research, and apparently that's a problem everybody had with it. So it wasn't just my TV that the blood was pink. I actually disliked the first half of this movie, but the end of it, the second half of the movie is where I felt like it really picked up. I don't mind the twist. With the doctor coming back, I thought that was a nice little, hey, okay, we're paying homage to the rest of the franchise, and that was where it started, and I really liked that. I don't feel like the traps were really that creative in the, and honestly, for it being the final chapter, it didn't have enough John in it, and it would be like have enough Jigsaw at all, and so like if. It would be like Freddy's Dead not having any Freddy, and I know Mike hates that movie, or Jason Goes to Hell being basically Jason Goes to Hell, where it doesn't really have much Jason Voorhees in it at all. So anyway, that's just a few of the reasons why I didn't really care for it.
Well, at least this one was supposed to be the final chapter, unlike another movie that calls itself the final chapter.
Hey, that's a good movie though. Don't fuck around.
All right, before I go into my number 7, I just want to preface this by saying this is just our individual favorites.
Right.
And coming in at number 7 for me is Saw 3D. I'm just going to piggyback off everything they said. This became my yearly tradition to see the Saws in the theaters. And this movie was in 3D. It had some cheesy 3D effects in it when I saw it in theaters. I really I'm basically going to say a lot of what they just said. I hated Bobby Dagan. I hated all the people he worked with. The only person I cared for, honestly, was his wife, who got killed at the end just for being his wife, basically. The only good part of this movie to me is Dr. Gordon, Jill Tuck, and Mark Hoffman. They're the only three that saved this movie. Honestly, I hate the cops too that are trying to chase down Hoffman. That's one of the best things to me about this franchise and this, is in the movies. I like the cops that we're following. I like, Danny Glover. I like Detective Carey. I like Officer Tapp, Eric Matthews. I did not like the cops in this movie either. They're stupid.
Right.
They really had no depth to them to me. I will disagree a little bit. I'll disagree with Mike. I really love the ending with Dr. Gordon. Where he gets that flashback. Where he grabs the saw, and then it reveals what Jill Tuck was dropping off in that envelope. It reveals it ties together a lot of the loose ends. The ending to me of Saw 3D is what saves the movie. I agree with what you guys said. The movie to me looks cheap. The traps stink in this movie. I don't like any of the traps really. I really don't have much good to say about Saw 3D. I mean, I don't hate the movie, but the traps are just kind of basic. Yeah, Dr. Gordon saved it to me. I really like Dr. Gordon tying it back up at the end.
All right, this is where I might get some flack from Nico or somebody else here. My number 7 is Saw 4, and I said this a couple weeks ago.
Oh wow!
When I have a couple of reasons why. It's not that it's a bad movie, but they make a lot of decisions that I don't like. There's some traps in here that fall under that thing that we talked about the last time, which is torture porn. There is some very just unnecessary, gory, garbage traps in this movie that I'm not a huge fan of. And a lot of the victims or the trap, contestants, if you will, I don't like. I want them to not win their traps because, sex abuse and child abuse and stuff like that. And I'm just not – it just doesn't do a whole lot for me. There is one cool kill, which, by the way, this is another complaint. They bring Donnie Wahlberg back for this movie. And I love the way they kill him off. I think that's a fucking cool-ass kill. So I will give it a positive on that. But there's just – this movie has a very convoluted plot. To me, the plot is running simultaneously with the Saw 3 plot. And you don't find that out to the end, and everything's really convoluted in my opinion. And it's just a little all over the place. And it's not that I want to preface it, or I guess not preface it, but I want to state I don't hate this movie. I think it's good, and especially when you binge it, it's just another piece of the puzzle in the Saw franchise. But it kind of lost me. Like, it's not that I hate it, but I have it lower than some of these other ones because I just think some of the gore is a little unnecessary and some of the traps don't really do anything for me, and the plot is a little all over the place. So Saw 4, number 7.
Wow. Okay.
I know. That's one everyone gives me shit over, and a lot of people like it, but it's just it's not for me.
No, I'll tell you, I think I'm going to be on the same page with you right here as far as drawing the ire of the rest of the panel. I want to preface it by saying that outside of 7, I don't think there's a bad film.
Me too. I'm the same way.
So the fact that this film is 7th out of 8 films does not mean that I think it's a bad film. But for me, it's Saw 3. I know, collective gasp. But
nope, not for me.
Okay. The reason is for me, I mean, John dies, Amanda dies. It's the first of the series that didn't have a huge revealed twist, which isn't a huge deal, but it was a letdown. Like I said, it's not necessarily bad, but the film was just overall forgettable to me. The games didn't captivate me like they did in the first 2 films. You needed 4 to fully grasp some of the happenings in this film. It tied it in together. So the same thing you said about how it's happening simultaneously.
Right.
4 helps this movie to me.
Okay. But
honestly, this film would probably be higher if it didn't immediately follow the greatness of 1 and 2. But overall, I mean, it's the one film that if I had to leave one out other than 7, because 7's like one of those train wrecks, like, God, this is so bad, this pisses me off. 3's one of those. Just I might not be jumping at the gills to watch it because it's just kind of flat to me.
Right.
So my number 7 actually is Saw 5. And so my deal is that, I mean, to me, 1 through 4 is almost one movie. Like I can take those 4 and move them around, and I love it. I love those 4. If this franchise stopped after 1 through 4, after number 4, to me, it would probably be my favorite horror franchise. I mean, that's kind of a big leap, but I mean, I really, I did not like Hoffman as the new killer. Like it really, after 4 movies of Jigsaw, I like really felt like they were like, okay, let's try to make Hoffman the new killer. And then I felt like it was they tried way too hard to try to tie him back into, oh, well, he was here for everything, and he was here for this, and he was here for this, after we kind of already saw that with Amanda. And so I felt like he almost was shoehorned into the franchise, and I never really got the same feel for him as I did for Jigsaw. And so I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. And I know I'm one of the biggest ones of saying I don't want to like the bad guy or whatever. But to me, like I never viewed John at all from even after 1, because I mean, he wasn't even really necessarily in that one a whole lot. But after that one, I never really viewed him as a bad guy. And, I mean, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. They really kind of made him relatable. They really took him in a different direction than they did like other serial killers, and almost like he was teaching lessons to the extreme. And like Mike said, about the having sympathy for him and not really giving a shit about the people he's killing. I mean, right. that kind of after 1, I felt that way for pretty much the whole thing. And I don't have a problem with that. But I really never felt that way about Hoffman. And, I didn't connect to me. It never really, I felt like I took the whole movie trying to like it, and I shouldn't really do that. And, I'm like Dustin said, there's not a bad film in here. I've already said that, but to me, it's 1 through 4 and then the rest of the franchise.
All right, coming at number 6 for me, and basically, 6 through 1 basically is just me trying to figure out which 9.0 movie do I like better than the other one. This is just me, or I might give this one an 8.5. But coming at number 6 for me is Saw 3. This is the longest movie in the franchise.
Yes, it is.
You kind of feel the length of this movie.
Yeah, you do.
I agree 100% with Dustin. The ending is nowhere near as good as the rest of them. I'm not a big fan of Amanda in this franchise, honestly. She kind of gets on my nerves. I mean, you kind of find out why she's the way she is in this movie, but it still doesn't make up that I don't like her. I really did not like Jeff Denlin. I hate that guy. I mean, I understand the mental state he was in, with his son being killed. But just taking so long to help that girl in the freezer, not doing anything to help Timothy at all when you're watching this guy's limbs and head get just twisted. Yep. I will say I do like the traps in this movie. The traps are awesome. The pig trap where the judge is getting drowned in pig carcasses that's got to be one of the worst ways I could ever think of dying. But this movie is it's a little too long. I really like Dr. Lynn Denlin, but I just hate Jeff. And Jigsaw got killed at the end. I didn't really like that.
Yeah, so my number 6 is Jigsaw. I actually took a lot more away from this than most people, partly because I watched the original 7 and then I took a day off and then I watched Jigsaw as kind of like a standalone. And as a standalone, I think it's pretty good. Like there's some mystery to it. I like the plot, and I know what you said, Nico, that it's not believable, and you're not wrong, especially if you sat and watched all 8 in a row. It'd be like a weird episode of a Netflix series where you're like, well, that doesn't fit. It's like a weird episode of House of Cards where Frank goes down to Louisiana and Claire's back in D.C., and it's just like none of this fucking makes any sense. This is kind of that. But I like how it all ends up tying in to a guy that's been helping Jigsaw all the way back at the beginning. Mm-hmm. something, and I know that's kind of weird. I'm kind of being a hypocrite with what I said about Dr. Gordon, but I actually like this better. I think they execute, the reveal of that of the doctor being, the help the whole time, I am him, or whatever it is, that line. I think it's great. The look on the face and the kill is cool as shit. It looks like a fucking octopus, and it's really damn cool. I mean, in all reality, it would have bone there somewhere, I'm guessing. But I still think it was a really cool kill, and I enjoy it as a one-off. Like, again, it'd be a weird thing to watch back to back to back to back, but I think it's pretty good. It's not as good as the next 5 I have, but it's better than the 2 I mentioned before to me from a rewatchability standpoint.
Yeah. All right. So my next film
You guys Jigsaw 1, don't you? Man.
No. My 6th best film in the franchise is Saw 5. To piggyback off of what was already said, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. The first game I thought was a great one, The Pendulum. That to me ties in. That's the epitome of what Jigsaw wanted, right? He wanted you to sacrifice something to escape. This was a believable trap that he could have escaped had he been able to put himself through that. I thought that was great. I like how Strom wasn't meant to live. I thought that was a good plot twist. His head's in a box, no way to escape that. He stabs himself in the fucking throat with a ballpoint pen.
Right.
That was a cool, like, oh shit moment. There's a lot of tense moments in this film with the cat and mouse of Strom and Hoffman, and that sort of tense atmosphere is going to keep you captivated. The revelation at the end that everybody from the first trap could have survived if they had just did what he said and ignore your basic instinct and work together.
Yep.
I thought that was also tied into what Jigsaw's principle was. There is a way out of all true Jigsaw traps if you just think your way through it and do what he says. So I thought that was good. I enjoyed this film.
Except for the candle 1 and 1. Except for that candle.
Except for the candle one. Yeah.
Impossible.
Had him solving a goddamn Sudoku while he's covered in. Anyway, but.
That was a Sudoku on steroids, pal. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, Saw 5. I enjoy this film from start to end. It's a good move, and to still a move from good brother Mike. I just want to say, Megan Good, call me sometime.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Megan Good can call me anytime.
Hey, any of them 3 girls can call me.
Yeah, I was gonna
sometime.
say.
Right.
Nico's not picky.
Hey, all 3 of them girls
Whoa,
are
that's
hot.
my role. Well, that's my role. Hold on.
So, surprise, surprise. My next film's going to be same as Mike's. It's Jigsaw. For pretty much most of the same reasons. I didn't mind the twist. The only thing that I didn't mind, or I didn't really care for, is that once again, for the 3rd time now in the franchise, you're shoehorning somebody in that's supposedly been there the entire time. Or maybe, heck, what is it, the 4th time, actually, if you count the Dr. Gordon first one. So, anyway, but I loved the ending reveal, same way. The only thing I didn't really care for that I noticed, and I know Nico said this about, I don't remember which one you said this was about, the final chapter maybe, but I felt like that about Jigsaw, was that it was too clean. The whole, even the blades, the saw blades, they all looked, brand new. Like I miss that dirt gritty feeling of the original ones. And so that's my biggest nitpick about Jigsaw. But overall, I think it was a very good reboot of the franchise. Just kind of getting it back on track, I felt like, and played homage to the rest of them, which a lot of movies could take some notes on.
All right, y'all ready for some controversy?
Oh, let's hear it, baby.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Going in at number 5 is Saw. That's it, just Saw, the first one.
Oh shit!
Wow. Wow.
Like I said, I love this movie.
Oh, okay, goddamn.
But we're talking about. but I put Saw at number 5 because, like I said in our review, guys, this is not the most rewatchable movie to me. It's got an elite ending. The ending is incredible. But just whenever I just want to enjoy a Saw movie that just burns up some time, this is not the one. Just because there's so much dialogue, so much flashback. You got to actually pay attention to this movie to watch it. To me, I love Saw. It doesn't have a lot of John Kramer, which kind of hurts it after you get to know John Kramer through the franchise. But right now we're ranking really good movies, and it's hard to rank these movies and please everyone. I love Saw. It's got a great ending, like I said. It's just not. There's 4 movies I'd rather watch above it if I'm just rewatching them.
Okay.
Wow.
I get what you're saying. That doesn't necessarily surprise me, because there's some truth to what you said. I'll get to it later. But my number 5 is Saw 5. For all the reasons that have already been said, I still really enjoy this movie. I think it has one of the better plots, if you will, but there's a lot of other, like you mentioned, Dustin, the twist where Strahm lives I love it. I think it makes the movie.
Yep.
Especially because you kind of went from John Kramer, who you're not sure if you like, you're not sure if you don't like. You can see some of the validity behind his reasonings for doing stuff. Hoffman, you just fucking hate, honestly, or I did. And so and like you said, there's cat and mouse. There's a lot of like, oh shit, are they going to catch him? Oh shit, are they going to catch him? And I like that in a movie. I don't think the gore is too bad here. At least it makes more sense than I thought it did in 4. And so for all the other reasons that have been listed, Saw 5 is my number 5. But again, the end of Saw 5 is why it ranks so high in my book.
Okay. So I guess with my number 5, this makes me I hold this movie in higher regard than the rest of you. I'm coming in with Jigsaw.
There you go.
So here's the thing with it. I said when I was talking about Saw 3D, you could tell that they had grown stale. They'd run out of ideas, out of creativity. They made a movie per year for 7 years. That happens. To me, taking this 7-year hiatus, when they came back refreshed. I thought that this movie had more creativity than the last one did, and I thought that this one, the traps were. I actually liked the traps. I know Nico said he didn't think the traps were that creative. I thought the one with the motorcycle, I thought that was pretty damn creative and brutal as fuck when the cyclone shredded the guy. I like the idea of a copycat killer 10 years after he's dead, and oh shit, this is really John's voice. How are they? That was
Right.
That kept you mentally stimulated to figure out what the hell's going on in this film. And then they set it up that it was going to be the new coroner who's obsessed with Jigsaw, but then the swerve at the end that it wasn't her, it was her mentor. I thought that was great. Logan, the swerve that it was Logan all along was cool. It made sense because he had access to the blood to put it under the fingernails and all this shit. And that he had been there the whole time. I didn't mind that. What you said, Mike, earlier is you said you were a hypocrite because you criticized the film for that before, but you didn't in this one. I think when it works, it works.
Yeah, I was gonna say when something clicks with me, it just does.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can't really explain. Like, you can't do it every time and be like, oh, okay, I like that, but I liked it in this instance because this is a fresh character,
Right.
and it's someone that has been. It makes sense that he could be so close to the situation this whole time. I thought that the acting and dialogue across the board was better than a lot of these films. I thought it was a better, more well-written film as far as the back and forth dialogue. It wasn't some of that amateur hour acting that we've seen in some of the other films. I agree that with Nico that it was a cash grab. He says that a lot about this film. It's unnecessary. I completely agree with that. But
Yeah.
to me, that doesn't overshadow the fact that it's a good film. Like you said, Mike, if you watch it as a standalone, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. If you watch it back to back to back, it's like, well, come on, it doesn't really fit. But to me, it's still a good movie overall. Plus the fact that Eleanor is smoking hot.
Call me sometime.
She's fine. And I even went so far as to stalk her IMDb page to find out what else is she in. I need more of her. So that's how much I liked her in this movie.
There's no wonder Liv Coward's about to out you. Anyway.
So my next film is Saw 6. And I really like Saw 6, so I don't really have a whole lot of negatives to say about this movie. It really only, to me, just suffers because it's not, Saw 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so I mean, I really liked the whole. You thought at the beginning that you were going to get like the mean bad guy insurance guy, but during the maze, he really kind of redeems himself and makes some selfless choices during the thing. And I really like the kind of the backstory with Jigsaw. It makes him even honestly more of a likable character. Kind of going through his cancer treatment, getting declined by the same insurance guy and that sort of thing. And Jill, I mean, she's one of my favorite parts of this movie. And hey, I'm trying to get her on the show. I'm trying to get her to do one of our intros. But like I said, Saw is my next film, and honestly, it's a great film. I only have it there because it suffers from not being
Right.
one of the first 4.
Betsy Russell, call me sometime.
I was going to say, call me anytime. Right now, I'm available. I will leave this show to answer the phone.
All right, coming in at number 4 for me is probably controversial again, but I still love it. It's Saw 2. This is the intro to Jigsaw, in my opinion. You really get to kind of understand him a little bit. It's the intro to Eric Matthews. This movie followed an iconic horror movie, an iconic intro to the horror movie, and it held up. It's really kind of hard explaining why I have Saw 2 at 4. It's just all of these movies are so good to me. It's like, damn, I got to put this here, huh? But I like the latter half of this franchise a little bit better than the first half, and it might be because of Saw 3 drug these down a little bit. Saw 2, I love watching Jigsaw and Eric Matthews' interactions throughout the movie. I love getting to kind of meet Detective Carey and Officer Rigg. The house trap is awesome. I have nothing against that. Yeah, I really like Saw 2, but I like the 4, 5, and 6 trilogy better.
Okay. My number 4 is Saw 3. You're right about the few negatives about this movie where it does drag a little bit. It's it is the longest movie in the franchise, and you can kind of feel it. But I like this. I don't necessarily like the character, but I like the central plot throughout this movie, or the dueling plots anyway, where you have, John Kramer's on his deathbed. They bring the doctor in. I like that. I like the interaction with her and Amanda. I'm kind of with you. I don't love Amanda in this movie, but it almost adds another antagonist because freaking John Kramer's lying on his deathbed.
Right.
And it adds another antagonist that you kind of need to carry the movie along. And I like the plot, and I love the traps. I think making the guy kind of, overcome his grief, you're actually kind of it makes sense of what Jigsaw's trying to do here. And I like that they reveal that some of these bad traps, the unwinnable ones, are Amanda's doing. I like that. I think that makes, it makes sense why we don't like her as much, because she doesn't quite understand the intelligence level that, Jigsaw really puts into his traps. And I like that, and I love the way it ends. I don't love the way it ends. You guys are right. There is no big twist, but I like how you end up finding out that these two are husband and wife, and I like it. It's a movie that comes full circle, in my opinion, and that's the reason that I like it, and that's why it's number 4. Again, it is long. I don't like it as much as the 3 I have above it, but I think from a story standpoint is why I enjoy it so much. And you're right. That goddamn dead pig shit is fucking disgusting, man. It is fucking gross. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so coming in at number 4 for me is number 4, Saw 4. I thought that this movie, it did more for character development than any of the other movies in the franchise to me, because it really did a good job of explaining how, it showed the revelation of the miscarriage with Jill, and how that undoubtedly played a part in the development of John's psychiatric development, and showed why he is the way he is, in a sense. I thought that this movie was essential for setting up the rest of the main part. I mean, without this film, 5, 6, 7, a lot of that wouldn't be really anything. Well, I don't know. This is another one of those films that's like, if it works for me, it works for me. And
Right.
watching this movie, I really enjoyed it. Some of the kills of them were pretty fucking brutal. This one does have a lot of the shit that's like overkill in a
Yeah,
way as
that's
far as
yeah.
brutality and gore, and I get how that can take away from it. But Eric Matthews' death, like you said, Mike, earlier,
It's so awesome.
the ice blocks just coming down and
Oh man.
smashing his head, that was like, oh shit. That's one of those oh shit moments in this franchise. In a franchise filled with oh shit moments, that one stands out more than a lot. So Saw 4 comes in at number 4 for me.
Same thing for me. Saw 4 is my number 4 as well. The whole backstory with his miscarriage kind of made me really, it touched me kind of like on a personal level and made me like really be like, oh, okay, I understand Jigsaw. I relate to Jigsaw, and maybe while I'm not going to go, while suffer from something like that and then go, start murdering people, I can at least understand where he's coming from with it. And to me, like, this movie has Tobin Bell's best acting. He gets the chance to finally show his acting chops off. I felt like there was a couple of scenes in like Saw 2 where Tobin and Donnie Wahlberg kind of went back and forth with some great acting scenes. But I feel like Tobin really got a chance to act in this one and show a backstory and give more character development to Jigsaw that he hadn't had before. And to me, this I love the rest of the franchise, but I would have not been totally, been like, damn, that sucks if this would have been the end of it, because I felt like it was a great recap on the whole thing. I felt like, so Eric Matthews, Donnie Wahlberg character is my favorite character of the whole franchise. So seeing him go out, I was like, damn, you gave me hope. I thought he was already dead, and you gave me hope, like bringing him back, and I was like, oh yeah. And then, but his death is crazy. His death is crazy. And so the only thing that I felt like a little bit was misplaced, where you guys talked about the brutality of some of the kills, like the scalp being ripped off and stuff like that. It was almost a little bit out of place because the whole movie has this overtone of morality, and it's kind of a little bit preachy and things like that, but yet it hits drastically to the other side, showing these brutal deaths. And so that's one of the main reasons it comes in at number 4. But like I said, this 1 through 4 to me is almost one gigantic movie, so you can take and mix these all over the place. So if the difference between my number 1 and my number 4 here is almost non-existent. It's almost 1 A, B, and C, D right there. So
let me just piggyback off something Brian just said. Tobin Bell gets to act in these movies, and this is why I think 4, 5, and 6 rank so high for me, because each movie has just one of those scenes or moments with Tobin Bell that just stick with me. So coming at number 3 is Saw 5. It's to me is one of the best opening scenes of the franchise with Seth Baxter in the pendulum. I remember seeing this movie in theaters, man. I was, cringing watching his hands get crushed. Mm-hmm. And then you see this, the pendulum cutting his body in half. Then he realizes somebody is watching him. Yeah. I love that tie-in. And then, like I said, the Tobin Bell stuff, the scene where Tobin Bell and Mark Hoffman finally meet one-on-one, I love that scene. I love seeing Tobin Bell, question Mark Hoffman, like why he did what he did. He wants to show him a way of rehabilitation where he can sleep again at night, where he can cope with the pain of losing his sister who got murdered by Seth Baxter. I love that. I love Detective Strom. I love Detective Strom in 4 and 5. I think he's the one who he's in the shadows of Mark Hoffman the whole movie, and I love that. He has the same problem as a lot of the previous movies. He's an obsessed cop with Jigsaw. Right. You should probably learn your lesson eventually that obsessed cops don't do too well with Jigsaw. I love the 5 people too in their traps. I love the traps. I love the pins or the anvil or the head kill. I love that. I love the exploding nail bomb kill. I love the electric kill and the cutting your hand in half kill or whatever. to fill it up with blood. I love the twist of it. Where the funny thing about the Saw movies is if you just listen to what the hell Jigsaw tells you, you'll be okay. I mean, you're gonna hurt yourself a little bit, but you will live if you just listen to what the hell the tells you to do. I love Saw 5. It's really rewatchable to me, and I love getting to see a lot of John Kramer in these movies.
Okay, so by the way, I forgot when I talked about Saw 3, it has one of my favorite kills of this franchise, and that's the ribcage kill.
Mm-hmm.
That trap is really cool. Like, it's gross, don't get me wrong, but it's really cool. I hate that happened to Dina Meyer, but the putting her hand in the acid and she's willing to do that because she's a badass and willing to live, and still doesn't win because we find out who set that trap up. So I thought that was really well done. That's one of the reasons I like that movie so much. My number 3 is the original Saw that we reviewed already. Look, I love this movie. I ranked it very highly. I think it's entertaining. It kicked off a great franchise. But to me, a little bit of what Nico said, even though I have it higher than him. But again, we're kind of splitting hairs at this point in my top 3. So you could kind of interchange these if you wanted. But from an entertainment standpoint, just kind of getting through a movie quickly, stuff hits, here, there, and everywhere. This movie has a lot of dialogue, which I like. But as a slasher fan, this movie has that. It doesn't have that feel like some of these other ones do, and it doesn't have that like straight up slasher entertainment vibe that some of the other movies in the franchise do. But again, we talked about this movie in depth, so I hate to just piggyback off of it. But I think the characters are good, except for Lee Winnell's acting. I think Danny Glover is great in this movie. I think the guy who plays Dr. Gordon, whose name is slipping me, his acting improves as he steps into madness. And I love that he's a relatable dad. He's, struggling marriage, struggling father. It's on a human level. You can relate to that story. And it's also just a classic horror movie. It's one of the ones that people think of when they think of horror. So that's why it's number 3. But like Nico said, just from a sit down, watch a Saw movie, I want to be entertained. This is not my go-to.
Exactly.
Okay. So my third favorite film in the franchise is going to be Saw 6. Now I know what some of you have said about how you don't like pulling for the killer, you don't like pulling for the villain. I don't have a problem with it in certain instances.
Yeah.
When it comes to John, when it comes to Jigsaw, he's a relatable guy. They do a good job of building the empathy factor for him in this franchise to the point to where some of the deaths, not all the deaths, but not all the victims, but some of them you're like, yep, I get it. And this one was the most satisfying death in the entire franchise. The insurance president or vice president, whatever he was, William. I mean, that guy was such a dick, such a prick as far as his discriminatory insurance policy. He basically gave John his death sentence, saying that this experimental coverage isn't going to be covered, or this experimental procedure is not going to be covered. And so, I mean, this film does a better job of any other film in the franchise of making you empathize with John. It makes you relate to his outlook on life, his mindset. And there's a clear-cut reason. Some of these people that are chosen, you're like, well, why do they choose him? It explains their sins, quote-unquote sins. It explains their transgressions, but why choose them?
Right.
This one, you know why William got chose. All right, motherfucker, you going to cause me to die? You're next. And so, plus, the film had Eddie Winslow in it, so I'm automatically a fan.
Eddie Winslow, that's right. That's right. That's right. My next one, my number 3 is actually Saw 3. My second favorite character in the whole franchise is Dina Meyer, and she bites it in this one, but I felt that one. I mean, I know that, and it honestly, it made me not like Amanda because all of her traps are more brutal and almost you have no chance of winning, and that kind of goes against what Jigsaw is doing. And so I don't really care for that because I always like even though, you feel like, okay, there's no way she's going to win this one or whatever, you still have the chance of it. And, especially watching the whole franchise the first time, I really, honestly, every one of them, I was like, oh shit, they're going to get out. But,
Yeah.
knowing Amanda was making them, it was almost like, yeah, okay, I know they're about to die. How are they going to die? And, and most of all, I loved the damn twist at the end of that. That was probably my favorite twist, probably, of any of the whole franchise, was the end of this one. How it tied everything together with the doctor's husband, and you thought the whole time she was married to that guy that she was actually having an affair with, and I mean, it was, man, I loved it. I loved it. So my number 3 is Saw 3.
All right, coming in number 2 for me is Saw 4. This is the introduction of Mark Hoffman. It's the introduction of Detective Strom and Detective Perez. I really like their addition to their movies. Man, I really like following Officer Rigg and what he has to go through. Because at the very beginning of the movie, when they find Detective Carey, it has a really great opening scene too, with the lawyer Art Blank and the other guy. One guy's mouth is sewn together and the other guy's eyes are sewn together, so they can't see and they can't talk to each other. Right. And they have to fight it out. I really like that opening. But the thing I love about the twist at the end of this movie is Officer Rigg is so obsessed with trying to help other people, he forgets himself, and it comes back to haunt him at the very end. One of my favorite scenes, actually my favorite scene in this whole franchise, is when John Kramer puts Cecil in his first trap. I love that scene more than any other scene in this whole franchise, because you finally see John. This to me is kind of John Kramer murdering basically the guy who murdered his baby. He calls Cecil out on the things that he's flawed with. He has an ugly soul, so he's going to make him push his face through these knives so his face matches his soul. And then after Cecil does get out, he just charges at John, and he gets trapped in the barbed wire. So that sets up the barbed wire trap in the first movie, and you just see him, drawing it up on his pad. I really love Saw 4. I love Officer Rigg. I love that he doesn't get it that it's not up to him to save everybody. I love the Ivan trap where he has to poke his eyes out or he gets his arms and legs ripped off. Big shout out to Darren Lynn Bosman, the director, and using only practical effects in this movie. It looks great. Mm-hmm. And I love Eric Matthews' death at the end of the movie, getting his head crushed with 2 blocks of ice. It was awesome to see. And I love the ending where Detective Hoffman gets up and reveals that he's the guy who's been helping Jigsaw.
Okay. My number 2 is Saw 6. To me, this is probably the most entertaining one to me. Like there's a movie that I like more from just a movie standpoint, the way it's shot, the acting, all that stuff. But to me, when I think of, I just need a Saw movie, I'm going to 6. 6 has a very enjoyable plot with the insurance guy. You're kind of mixed on him because he did a bad thing, but he's also just a suit at this point. So he kind of has no choice. So he's half likable, half not likable. Like you're kind of, as he's going through this, maze, a labyrinth of traps, you're kind of not sure if I should pull for him or not. I'm always torn on it, and I think that swig of Jameson over there. I love that I don't know what I'm supposed to feel here, and I love the I guess we'll call it the merry-go-round kill or the merry-go-round trap. That is so fucking fun to me. The scene is so intense.
Yeah, you're right.
It is one of my favorite scenes in the franchise, probably my favorite scene in the franchise, because you can only save 2 people, and you're really not sure who he's going to save. And, there's a little bit of predictability that he's probably going to save 2 women. But, again, you don't know, because you don't know if I like this guy. Do I not like this guy? Like, I'm really torn. Even at the end, when they leave it up to a family that he's the reason the dad died. Yep. And the injection kill, where he's just dissolving from bottom to top is so fucking cool. Yes. I love that kill. I'll be honest, I love this movie. Like, it is a really good horror movie to me.
Same.
I love that, how Jill's a big part of this movie as well. You get, a lot of work with her. So, big fan. Number 2. There's a movie that I like more from a movie standpoint, but just, man, I want to be entertained. I'm popping in Saw 6 for sure.
Can I speak to that merry-go-round kill real quick? I didn't mention it whenever I was talking about that movie, but man, that movie that merry-go-round thing is, I mean, it speaks so much to corporate America, and I see that shit all the time where it's like you have this group and they're such kiss asses the whole time. Kiss asses. And then once that second girl's chosen, that final guy is just like, fuck you, and lets that dude have it. So the whole time they're all just kissing ass. Like I said, it just speaks to corporate America so much, and I really liked the underlying tones of that.
Hey, let me piggyback off of that. This is the first Saw movie that's topical. Like it comments on what's going on in the world at the time, the healthcare crisis and stuff like that. So I thought from a change of pace, switch of story, I thought that was really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and another thing about Saw 6 that I didn't mention, I mean, to that point, through the first 6 Saw movies, it had the most kills. Now they outdid themselves in 3D, and they outdid themselves again in Jigsaw. It's like, oh shit, we're on something here.
God,
but
3D's got a million fucking kills.
Yeah, it does. But to that point, it was like that had the most kills, and like I said, when you're talking about a satisfying death, that motherfucker chose to let Eddie Winslow die. So no,
this is true.
and he was the best member of his team. But anyway, I digress. So my number 2 film is the one we just got done reviewing. It's Saw, the original from 2004. I mean, it started the franchise. It's an instant classic in my opinion. As far as rewatchability goes, I don't think it dropped off any. As far as a lot of these classics from our younger years, we rewatch them and like, oh, that sucked. What was I thinking at the time? This one doesn't have that drop off. Everything I could possibly say about it, we covered in the review episode. But I love what they did with such a low budget. I love the grimy, dingy feel to it. The twist with Tat being the one that's paying Adam to follow Dr. Gordon, John being alive in the middle of the room the whole time. I love that. Plus, it had, like I said on the review episode, it had the best line of the entire franchise when Adam's like, look, I don't care if you covered yourself with peanut butter and had a 15-hooker gangbang. So that's going to carry some weight with me, because if you can make me laugh in such a serious, demented situation, you're going to get some points. I mean, I rated it a 9.5 when we reviewed it. It's just a great, great film.
There's not a whole lot more I can say, because I agree with Dustin completely. That's my number 2 as well, as the first Saw film. We, like he said, we just went over this. I ranked it a 9.75. So shit, I've only had one movie since we've been doing the show that I've ranked higher than this movie. I love it. I love the twist ending. I love just about every part of it. I've seen this one more than any of the other movies in this franchise, just because I had to watch it. I watched it twice for our review. I had seen it twice before, so I've seen this movie 4 times, where I've seen the rest of the franchise, at the most once each of the movies. So I feel like when I think of Saw, I think of the first one. And maybe upon more rewatches, I'll feel that way about different parts of the franchise. But whenever I think of Saw, first one, I think of the parts of the first one, and honestly, it sets the tone for the whole thing. They go back to it just about the entire franchise.
Yep.
So there's not a whole lot more I can say about it.
All right, coming in at number 1 for me is Saw 6. This is peak Jigsaw and peak Mark Hoffman to me. William Easton is my favorite, I don't know what you want to call him. He's my favorite character that we follow throughout the movie, who's tested. The opening scene is pretty good. It's not my favorite, where they have to sacrifice their own flesh and blood because they're predatory loan officers. I think that's really intense. But this movie is my favorite because it's fast paced and there's a lot going on that's really entertaining. The traps are great. And Jigsaw has a quote in this movie that it goes back to over and over that I really love, when he tells William Easton in the past, "You think it's the living who have the ultimate judgment over you, because the dead will have no claim over your soul." but you may be mistaken. And he gives him that. He tells him that quote as he walks out of William Easton's office when he's denied coverage and throws his claim away in the trash can. And I love William Easton's traps that because William Easton is tested more than any other person in the franchise to me when it comes to what his issues are, why he originally got, captured. He is faced with he has to determine by his own policy who should live, and he's faced with it. He's not just signing off on paperwork no more. He's put face to face with the blood. He's put face to face with people losing something. I love the scene where he has to choose who lives and dies. His secretary or the other guy in the office, the guy who has no family, or the lady who by his policy should die because she has diabetes, but she has family. She has people who care about her. So he had, and I love, like Mike said, the merry-go-round trap. It's pure psychological torture. It's, hey, William.
Yep.
Use your own policy to decide who lives, and you have to watch them die. I love watching the last guy say, William, you look at me when you're killing me. I love that.
Yeah.
And then Saw 6 to me is the first movie. Saw 6 is the first movie since Saw 2 to have a really, really good twist ending. Because the whole movie leads you to believe that the guy, like the mother and the son, are William's wife and son, but it's not. It's the one he denied coverage to. And the blonde news reporter was his sister. So it was a really good. I love the ending where, the mother and the daughter, or the mother and the son, they have to watch the video. They say that William has learned his lesson basically, but it's not up to you. Get to make the decision now. Do you want him to live or die? And I really love the ending where Jill Tuck shocks Mark Hoffman and puts him in the trap. You finally learn what's inside of that box that I think she got in Saw 4. You finally learn what's in the box. It's an updated bear trap.
What's in the box?
And I understand people not liking. I understand people not liking Mark Hoffman, but if there's anything I'll give this man credit for, is he is a fucking fighter. He is willing to do whatever it takes to live.
Yeah.
I love the ending where he gets the bear trap stuck in the mirror or the window or whatever in the bars, and it shows him just screaming, and he's got his whole cheek ripped open because he didn't want to die. I love Saw 6. It's by far my favorite in the franchise. I love the Saw. I love the Tobin Bell and William Easton interactions throughout the movie and how it connects. I love it.
The reason that I don't like Hoffman, by the way, is because he's the opposite of Jigsaw. He's a fucking murderer. And technically, even though Jigsaw is kind of a murderer, he's not technically, if we just look at his actual kill count. So,
I'm with you on that. That's why I don't like Amanda, too, because she just killed people. Do you like the way brutality feels, Mark?
Yeah, exactly. So, my number one is Saw 2. I think this movie has probably the best acting overall. I think that Eric Matthews is one of the best characters in the whole franchise. I think that the interactions between Donnie Wahlberg and Tobin Bell when they actually happen is so fucking good. To me, this is one of the best made Saw movies from a film standpoint. From it still has that dirty feeling of Saw 1, but the script is really good. I love the twist ending that you get Amanda. This is the first Saw outside of 6, but this is really the first Saw that I can go to and be like, okay, I'm going to watch Saw 2 now. And I think it's great. And partly, to me, this movie is so great because Donnie Wahlberg. So, Saw 2 is my number one.
All right, well, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to say that Saw 2 is my number one. I mean, listen, it's great to me. Donnie Wahlberg, you said it. He acted his ass off in this film. The games were probably my favorite set of games in the franchise as far as one movie. The people chosen all made sense, and then you realize, oh shit, the cop that put them all away, his son's in here. And when they find that out, I mean, you talk about a tense situation. What would you do in that situation?
Except for Jose Canseco.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go. So, what would you do in that situation when you're in a house with these other people who are like R. Kelly fighting for their fucking life? Yeah. And your dad's the reason that they all went to jail. And so I thought that was incredible. The Venus flytrap.
Oh, yes.
Was brutal as fuck. the twist that Amanda was the accomplice when she was one of the people in the house, the shit that she went through, and she's the one that put them there. She got thrown into that pile of syringes and stabbed
Yes,
by all these
that's one of
needles
my
and shit.
favorite scenes, man.
And come to find out, she was one of the people that put them in this house. That's a mind fuck right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's the best twist of the franchise.
Yep, me too.
Because you get done watching one, and you're like, oh shit, he was alive the whole time. That's crazy. Like that's a big twist, but that's about the extent of the reaction. You watch number 2 right after it, especially if you watch them back to back.
Yep.
And then Amanda, turns out to be she's the culprit, and you're like, what the fuck? Like she almost had her jaw ripped open in Saw 1. She was thrown into this pit of needles in this movie. She's subjected to the same shit that they are, and she's behind this. I thought that it was brilliant, and honestly, it's time to give Donnie Wahlberg his flowers. He doesn't get enough respect when it comes to acting. Look no further than this movie to see a prime example of what that man can do. He's the star of that family.
Man.
Sorry,
That's
man.
a bad thing about going last is that I gotta follow Dustin and Mike, and both of them. I saw 2 at number 1. I think I said we all watched this as a group.
Yeah.
And texting back and forth about it, and I said it in there. I'm not taking anything away from Tobin Bell's acting, and I wasn't when I said it, because honestly I hadn't got his best acting performance to me, which I said earlier wasn't in this film to me. But the scene where Donnie Wahlberg and Tobin Bell are going back and forth, it was just those 2 heavyweights back and forth at the table. I felt like man, I feel like I was watching Nicholson and Keaton in the first Batman. And Tim Burton's Batman, and I felt like it was honestly where Nicholson outshined Keaton, where the Joker outshined him in acting, and Donnie Wahlberg, Donnie Wahlberg's playing Donnie Wahlberg. He plays this exact same character in Blue Bloods. He plays it in everything that I've ever seen him in, really, that I can think of, and he's got it down to a T. What can you say? He plays it perfectly. I love the twist at the end. And honestly, I relate to films a lot if I can, and it helps me get into the story more. And his relationship with his son, I really felt. I felt it. I felt it here. I felt it. Inside. I related to it a lot. So it made Eric Matthews my favorite character in the whole franchise. Plus, I said, him and Dina Meyer's characters are my 1 and 2 favorite ones, and they're both in this film. So there's not a whole lot of other reasons I can say why, but that's why Saw 2 is my number 1.
Yeah, and these are all good movies, honestly.
Right.
It's all preference. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and shout out to Beverly Mitchell, who's doing one of the intros to our show. So, and she had a nice little change of pace from Seventh Heaven in this movie to kind of go a totally different direction with the acting career. So,
Right.
And I just want to say too, the Jose Canseco line from earlier, what that came from is, like Brian said, we did watch this as a group, and we were texting back and forth. And that was one. His name was, I think, what was it, Xavier in the film?
Yeah, it's Xavier.
Yeah. So that's who we're talking about. Just so you all are.
Listen, he's about the one glaring part of the movie that I don't like, because he's just like muscle bound. He's Jose Canseco. He has roid rage. It's just, he's probably one of my least favorite. But one more thing about Saw 2 is I love the Saws that have these group traps where you kind of have to work together to make it out, and that's not going to happen, but I love that concept. And so to me, this is probably the best done of that. And so but I love the ones that have that, and I love Saw 2 for that plot line. I think it's really good. And like you guys said, to be all former people that Eric Matthews arrested and the son's in there, it's just all really damn good. And we watched it as a group, like y'all said, and I almost forgot that, because it had been so long, that Amanda was like, you kind of forget that Amanda is such a central character, at least for this movie and then the following one. And that twist still gets me. I think it's pulled off so damn well. And the syringe scene, just knowing that she's a recovering drug addict is tough, man. So that's of the big reason why I love Saw 2.
Oh yeah, Saw 2 has a great ending as well. You'll find your son in a safe place, and he's literally in the damn safe. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm sorry to beat Saw 6 one more time, but I forgot to mention one more scene I love. The scene where they finally get the voice recognition figured out with Detective Hoffman, Agent Perez, and they finally figure out it's Detective Hoffman who's been killing these people on the side. I love that scene as well. Hoffman is a bad motherfucker. Whether you like him or not, that's fine.
Right.
But he is a bad dude. I love that scene. Right now, you're feeling helpless. I love that part. This was really fun to rank this franchise. I love the Saw franchise. I know all of you do as well. This was a little different because Halloween and Friday the 13th both have some absolute stinkers in them.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Right.
Saw really is, the worst movie to me. My number 8, I would probably still rate a 6.5 or a 7, which isn't bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
and
true.
and like my top 5 are all probably a 9 or above. So it's like, damn, which 9 do I think is better than the other 9? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's all just preference. What we liked better? Do we like the groups? Do we like more Jigsaw, less Jigsaw, more Amanda, etc., etc.? But this was really fun to rank, guys. Y'all got any final comments or thoughts before we get out of here?
I'm ready to go into some of these movies, individually.
I would love to break
more,
down
so.
Saw 2 or 6 as an individual movie. We're definitely going to get there, guys.
Yeah.
I think that it's a really good franchise, and it is best watched in a binge, like a good Netflix series. I've said this a million times. To me, it is the best way to take in Saw, not as a one-off, to just continue the story. I know sometimes you don't have all day to sit around and watch all the Saws, so there are better movies that play as one-offs, but the best way to take in Saw is like a good Hulu or Netflix series.
Well, Mike. I mean, you said you don't always have time. Bullshit. We're in a quarantine right now.
I was gonna say, figure it out, pal. If you're not essential, watch Saw.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that by the time we release this episode, we're still in a quarantine. So yeah,
we'll be in a bigger quarantine.
you can watch these films, and I recommend you do it. And only thing I can say is I can't wait to see what direction the franchise takes in the upcoming movie Spiral.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Chris Rock in a serious role. That's intriguing to me. Samuel L. Jackson, you're gonna hear some motherfuckers.
Yes,
so
my man.
I'm excited to see what direction they take it. Is this gonna get back to the roots? Is this gonna be some more bullshit? Is this gonna be another cash grab? Is it gonna be a cash grab but still a good movie, which I'm okay with, just to be honest. Clearly.
I like
So
that.
so yeah. Overall, I mean, I've said it with you guys before. This is one of my top 2-3 horror franchises in existence, and this was a lot of fun.
Chris Rock is really going to be hard for me to take serious in that role, especially because when I think of Chris Rock as a cop, Lethal Weapon 4, and he's not, he's not a serious cop, so it's going to be really hard for me to shift gears. It would almost be like, Danny Glover playing some, off the wall crazy beat, like cop, that wasn't him. So, it was just going to be out of place, I think.
I just want to make a comment on Spiral since Dustin brought it up. I remember tweeting about a month ago. I think me and Mike were talking about it a little bit, but I did a little research on it because I was excited to see Spiral, and I still am because, it's part of this franchise. However, the 2 writers of Spiral, these are the movies they're known for writing.
Oh, yeah.
Jigsaw, Piranha 3D, Sorority Row, and Eli Roth's Clown. Not good, Bob.
Not good.
Not good.
Okay, 2 things I want to add. I didn't hate Piranha 3D. I'm the only person on the planet. I know. But outside of that, yeah, those are all stinkers. That Clown movie really pissed me off because I thought it was going one direction and went another, and it fucking sucked.
And it was long as hell.
It was way too goddamn long. God damn. Eli Roth has good movies on his resume. That is not one of them.
But we will see with Spiral. We will see. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
And before we get out of here, I just want to announce, we got a friend of the show, Brightso, Matty Talley on Twitter. He gave me some like art, some cover arts or whatever that he's made, and we're going to start giving those away. So just stay tuned to the Twitter account. We're going to be asking some trivia questions. Maybe just retweet this tweet and we'll pick a winner. Just stay tuned. We're going to start giving away some more stuff. Y'all have a good night. I really appreciate y'all listening.
Game over.